It's Angie with AngieGensler.com, and I want to welcome you to Freedom Friday, where I interview successful entrepreneurs who quit their 9-to-5 job to create a business and life they love. Today, I am joined by Laura Stanik, and she is the founder and CEO of Urgently Good, where good brands take off fast. Now, her team turns dreams for a better society into a complete system for growth. So that's from organizational strategy to branding, marketing, design, all in a matter of days. Now, before founding Urgently Good, Laura spent her career leading brand strategy and cultivating engaged and philanthropic communities for nonprofits and public and private universities. And in 2017, Laura took the leap, quit her 6-figure job to build a business. So please join me in welcoming Laura to the show. Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Good. I'm so glad to have you on the show today. So thank you for joining us. And
thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So before we dig into your kind of the escaping corporate and building business story, I want to first hear about your business, Urgently Good. Can you tell us about it and what you do and how you help people?
Absolutely. So I've long been on this mission to make social good the standard. I think it's just crazy how many wacky things we have going on in society. And so Urgently Good and starting this business is just one of the ways that I've been working on that. And as you said, Urgently Good, what we're trying to do is take ideas that people have or efforts that are currently underway for a better society in some way and turn that for them into a system that will grow so they can grow more and more of that goodness, not just to benefit them, but to benefit all of us. So we work with individuals and organizations who in some way are committed to making life better. So for us, so far, that's included solopreneurs, small business owners, but also educational institutions, causes, and nonprofits. So we get to work with a variety of people, but they all really have in common that they're trying to do some good and make some difference through the work that they're doing.
Wow, that's fantastic. What an awesome business. And
it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's very cool. So let's go back to the earlier days. Let's go back a few years. So when we were talking prior to going live, you had mentioned that you worked a corporate job and quit and were a freelancer for a while. So I want to start there. Can you talk about where you were working at the time and what caused you to want to leave that job?
Yeah, so I think it was maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I left a job, not a 6-figure job, but a good job. I had been directing communication for a school and was enjoying the work that I was doing, but I kept having people across the university and from other places contacting me and asking me to do projects on the side. And it just kept happening and happening and happening. And all of a sudden it became this easy step and not this scary leap to start thinking about the idea of becoming a freelancer full time. And so I did that. I left my job. People thought I was insane for doing it, but I loved it. And I spent, anybody who's worked the life of a freelancer full time knows that it is a crazy, grindy hustle. And I did really well, from a financial standpoint, I did really well. I was making as much money, if not a little bit more than I was making in my full-time job. But after about maybe a year and a half, I had gotten to this place where I just felt like a deli counter because I had let everyone else decide what my business was going to be rather than me figuring out sort of what my best strengths were and what I was most passionate about and what I enjoyed doing and how I thought I could bring the most value. So I was doing great work, but it just wasn't really connecting with me. And so I realized I needed to kind of figure out a business model that would work for me. And about that time, because I knew it would take a little bit of time to figure that out. And so about that time, I got a call out of the blue. I hadn't been searching for another 9-to-5 job, but I got a call about one, and it was a really amazing opportunity. And I knew I'd learn a lot from it. And I thought, it's not a bad thing to do to take this job. It's not that I've failed, in this business, because by many standards, I've been really successful. It's just not, it just didn't turn, I just didn't set myself up for the kind of success I wanted and the kind of business that I wanted. So I learned from it. I'm still really proud of a lot of the work that I did with that business, but I thought, this is a great opportunity because while I'm doing this job, I can, keep working on my business on the side and figure out that new business model and grow something different. So I entered that job always knowing that I wasn't done owning my own business and running my own business. And I had planned to stay for a few years. I ended up staying longer than I thought. I stayed for, I think about 4 years, maybe a little bit more than that. And, again, there was a lot of great work, things I'm really proud of. I was lucky I worked with an incredibly talented department. I think there were 14 or 15 of us, and they still to this day are some of the most talented, skilled, kindest people I've ever been lucky enough to work with. But I think a lot of people, people ask me all the time, why did I leave? And I think people have this fantasy that they're going to hear this story about how I, was sitting in a meeting and something happened and I just gave everybody a piece of my mind and the finger and walked out of the room. It wasn't like that. I mean, I did have a really unfortunate and negative experience toward the end of my time in that job, where I felt incredibly betrayed by someone who I had grown to trust. But that experience isn't why I left. It's why I left then. And what I mean by that is I had entered this job still feeling the tug of wanting to grow that business. And I knew from this job I would have a lot of opportunity to grow and learn and stretch in ways that I wasn't. But I had burnt myself out entirely. About a year before I left, I was already working 7 days a week just on this 9-to-5 job. So it wasn't a 9-to-5 job. Yeah. And it wasn't because I really wanted to be working 7 days a week because I was just loving it so much. I was working 7 days a week to try to get enough done. And all of a sudden it was like my life, the best way I can describe it is my life was tasting to me like styrofoam. So it was like, felt like I was losing my friends and family. I just wasn't seeing people as much as I would have liked to. And I never had that time that I had thought I would have to figure out that new business model for myself. So I had this experience that, again, it's not the reason that I left, but it forced me to question, why am I doing this? Why am I still doing this? And it helped me realize that I had stayed way longer than I should have and had let myself get completely burnt out. Which is a place I do not recommend anybody getting to because I tried, even after that experience, I tried for a group and dig deep and, keep going. And I just couldn't get rid of the question, why, for what? And I felt like I had lost myself and hadn't really done myself the service I had promised of really getting that business started. So, I don't know. I took that opportunity and I said, you know what? I think if that hadn't happened, something else would have happened at some point that would have felt like the final straw to me, So I just figured this is it. This is my time. But I didn't blindly just leave. I did a lot of math. My dad would be very proud. My dad is a numbers guy. So I did a lot of math before I left to figure out, how much I needed to have, how much savings I had, and was this worth it to me? And ultimately I decided that it was. And I also decided to give myself a little bit of time, since I was so incredibly burnt out, to just recover a little bit from that experience, because I truly had worked myself to a place where on a daily basis I was like running on exhaust, which is terrible, like exhaust and just a shit ton of coffee, just so much coffee, it's just not, it's not how anybody should live their life. No. So I had said to people, when they asked me what I was going to do when I left, I said, I'm going to spend the first week in bed. And people laughed thinking I was joking. I legit slept for like a solid week. I don't think I got out of that bed. So I let myself kind of find some energy again, and gave myself a window of time to quickly get a business model figured out and a business live. So for anybody who's thinking about making the leap. If you've tried before and it didn't quite work out the way you planned, you can, second time might be the charm. You don't might not even have to go for thirds.
Yeah, nice. I love that story and the progression of your journey, because I love that it's the first, you quit once, went back, and you built a successful business, but decided, not really into this anymore. I'm going to go back, and then worked in the 9 to 5, and then tried it again, which is awesome because, if anyone's out there watching this and they've started a business and maybe they went back to a 9 to 5 job for whatever reason, it doesn't necessarily mean that you weren't cut out to be an entrepreneur or you weren't made for that. There's lots of lessons that you need to learn every step of your journey. And so it sounds like almost you needed those 4 years to learn some new lessons and to really figure out what it is that you wanted to do and build.
100%. And I think when people say, why did you leave? It's almost like people forget that you're a person outside of that, like a singular experience, that you've got a life lens of experience. I lost a friend who died at 30 of breast cancer. I've lost tons of people in my life. And I've just, so for me, it's also like I'm looking at life through this lens of, you never know, you never know. You might as well be doing something that, that's what you really want to be doing. So I'm glad I had the chance. I feel lucky that I had the chance to ask myself the question, is this really, nope, this is not what I want my life to be right now, at least. And okay, so what can I build instead? So I feel lucky. And the learning has not stopped either from there. There's been a lot to learn.
Nice. Well, we have a handful of people watching us live right now. So I just want to do a shout out to everyone who is watching us live. If you have ever lived on a shit ton of coffee, I wrote it down because I'm like, that is too much.
Yes.
If you are living on a shit ton of coffee right now, comment, let us know. If you have any questions for Laura throughout this conversation, guys, feel free to jump in and ask questions live. I'll make sure that I get your questions out there. So I want to talk about, really both times that you left your job, how did you overcome those feelings of fear? Because I'm sure there are feelings of fear and doubt. How did you get past that to kind of boldly step out in faith?
I don't know that for me they ever go away, but I think what I've learned to do is allow my brain to be quiet and just trust myself that I'm not being foolish in what I'm doing. It is scary. It is hard to, it can be scary and hard, but it's also a matter of how you look at things. So I talk a lot about excellence in learning, which I know is very similar. You talk about perseverance and not perfection, and I talk about excellence in learning and not perfection. And so I think for me, the times where I feel scared or overwhelmed or afraid, when I was making that decision, or even in my business now, I have to remind myself, but can I just do something excellent? Don't worry about all the things I could do and should do, but can I do something excellent? Yes, great. And while I'm doing it, learn from that experience, because then you've got something excellent to start from next time, right? Which sounds a little bit trite, but I think for me, that's how I did it. And I also had learned from that first experience, where the first time I left and had built a business, I think most people in my life were supportive and, were surprised and a little nervous for me, but kind of felt like it was the right thing. When I left a 6-figure job, they all thought that I was, and maybe they still do. Think that I am, I was talking to somebody the other day and she said, wait a second, you did what? Because by a lot of standards, that's what a lot of us think about being a really happy, successful life. But when you have no time to enjoy it, that's not what success looked like. So I think from my first experience, when I let everybody else dictate what my business was going to be, not intentionally, but that's what I did. I took everybody's orders and did all the things. I learned from that and realized that I had to feel most comfortable, and regardless of what anybody else thought or wanted, I had to, when I was absolutely quiet and alone by myself, I had to feel with 100% certainty that it was worth it to try and to build and to do. And I also sat myself down and I said, okay, what sacrifices are you willing to make? Because you're leaving a lucrative position. I mean, you have no life, but you've got a great job and work that's interesting. And if it doesn't go the way that you want, what sacrifices in your life are you willing to make? And I said to myself, well, if I needed to get a part-time job to extend how long I could work on this, was that worth it to me? Because you got to suck up your pride to do that. So I kind of defined for myself ahead of time, what would my worst case scenarios look like? So I could kind of give myself a plan for them so that if and when I got to them, they wouldn't feel so much like scary failure. And instead I could just keep moving forward. So I don't know. So for me, I think it's, when you're leaving, do the math, do the math and don't be foolish about it. Make sure that you've got a plan and that you're honest with yourself about, owning your own business doesn't ultimately have to be a sacrifice, but as you're trying to build something and you're making a big change in your life, you might have to make some changes with that. So being honest with yourself about that, I think has been helpful for me.
Absolutely. That's fantastic advice. Now, what was your biggest challenge? Because, you're transitioning from working 7 days a week, no life, really demanding job to sleeping for a week and then building your business. What was that transition like? And what was the hardest part from transitioning from the 9-to-5 kind of corporate type job to doing your own thing?
I mean, there were great parts of the transition. I had not had coffee in a mug in the morning, other than on a weekend in years. So being able to do that and eat breakfast like a human and not,
at a table,
not
in your
on
car.
a train or in a car. Yeah. That was gloriously life-changing. And I had, when I was working that job with all of those hours, I used to, I still get up but no later than 5:30 every morning, but I used to try to cram in a workout in there. And so now my brain is awake that early and it's like my best time for work, but my body needs some time to warm up for that kind of thing. So now I'm able to do that, around 3:00 or something, later in the afternoon. So there are some wonderful parts about that transition from the lifestyle I was living, not to mention I've seen my family more and turns out my husband really is a great person. So, all kinds of great things have come from that transition. I think the hardest transition is that, running a business comes with lots of busyness. There even without trying to find work to do, you could probably, or at least I could probably keep myself busy doing and creating and making on a daily basis. But the hardest part, and it's still something that I'm working out, especially because we work on really intensive deadlines, right? We're turning things around next day, within a week. When you're working on a deadline like that, it can be hard to be all about the project that you're working on and all about finding other projects so that you have things stacked up and lined up and ready. Because when you're working in more of a corporate environment, the work's coming to you. You don't necessarily have to go looking for it. You're more of an entrepreneur, right? You can be entrepreneurial within a context that's provided. And here, I'm making my own context. And so finding that balance of doing the work and finding the work, I think has been a transition that I expected, but that's challenging.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned with that transition, being able to drink coffee out of a mug, sitting at a table, eating. Yes. I remember, when I quit, that was a big thing for me. I was like, I actually got to sit outside on my patio, watch the sunrise in the morning. And I was like, why didn't I do this every day? Like I had this, it was here. It's been here all along and I never did it. Like, it's funny. So I'm curious with the mornings, I'm a morning person too. So morning routines are really important to me. Do you have, a typical morning routine that you follow to kind of set the tone for your day?
I do. So I'm up most days no later than 5:30, sometimes a bit earlier than that. And I'm usually pouring my coffee around 5:45. I like to start with water, but I quickly move to coffee very quickly and have some breakfast. And I use a Panda Planner, which I'm not sure if you've heard of or have one, but it's basically it's a small planner. I don't use all aspects of it, but what I like about it is that it helps every day remind me to find a few things that I'm grateful for, find a few things that I'm excited about, set an intention for the day, which it feels like a little hippy dippy to do it, but I find it very helpful. I really do, because it helps me stay focused on really what I've got to get done. And I've defined sections in there for myself. Like they allow you to plan for a month, a week, a day. And I don't get totally crazy. I'm not a journaling kind of gal. That's not who I am. But it's a way to kind of make a to-do list that also just reminds me to enjoy this time and not, if I want my life to be a certain way, I have to work each day for it to be that way. So, if I don't want to cram a workout in the morning, then I got to plan for it in the afternoon and do it and enjoy it. If I, don't want to miss having breakfast, you have to eat it. Like that's the only, that's the trick. For me, so I do that to kind of set up my day so that I've taken a minute to just sort of be quiet. And when I end each day, I make a to-do list for the next day. So I'm starting every morning knowing really what I've got to hit, but it helps me think comprehensively about my whole life because, kind of like you, I don't believe that this should be a total hustle and a total grind, right? It doesn't have to be that way. So if you can be intentional about it, at least for me, I find that to be a really helpful way to set up the day. I also have cats and a 30-something-year-old newt, Wayne, who's an amphibian that my husband's had since he was in second grade.
Oh my gosh.
So there's like some care for them that happens in the morning as well, but I hold that off until 8 a.m. So I try to give myself a little time just for myself in the morning, and then I handle everyone's needs around 8, but usually they're reminding me at 7 that, in an hour, they're going to be eating.
Yeah. Nice. I love that. And, you can go as hippy dippy as you want. 'Cause I am all about that. I wrote down Panda Planner. I got to check that out.
Yes, I'll show it to you. I have it right here.
Nice.
It's this.
Okay. That's awesome.
I would recommend it to a friend. And I think they have let me tell you, if anybody's interested, if you buy it on Amazon and you use the code PANDAFAM, F-A-M, you'll get 10% off.
Cool. Okay. We'll put that in the show notes.
I am not an affiliate. I do not make any money off of this. But it's just been something that has helped me really keep myself focused. And like I said, I think for me, it's also been helpful because when I was leaving that 6-figure job, I had started to feel like I had lost myself. Like I had, because I'd given up so much I'd made what I felt were a lot of sacrifices of my time and energy to put towards this one thing and not across my life. And I kind of felt like I needed to re-find what I love and what makes me really happy. What do I enjoy? So it's been a great way to do that.
That's awesome. Now, when you left, we were talking prior to going live. So you didn't know when you quit that job exactly what you're going to do. Is that correct?
Sure did not.
So how did you get to that point? How did you get from I'm quitting to I'm building urgently good? And this is what I'm going to do. Can you talk about that?
I can. I actually did it by making some mistakes, which is a great way to learn. Initially, I had some opportunities for some immediate projects, and they weren't like exactly what I wanted to do, but they were great, and I was excited to take them on. So I had to quickly start a business so I could take those projects. And so rather than putting myself through the typical process I would recommend anybody go through when they're starting a business, I was just like, okay, I got to name it today. I'll name the business. And, quickly pay to, have it formed and, just make a website and start going. And about a month, so I started working on these other projects, and I used that month and I was saying, what the heck did I do? One, this is a terrible name. Like, this is a terrible name. It doesn't mean anything. I had gone with marketing for one. Now, this to me was all about personalized or individualized marketing. Doesn't mean anything to anybody else. Everybody always wanted to ask me, is it marketing the number 4, FOR, FOUR, and then is it one the number or
gosh.
I was just like, this is what I'm good at. How did I let myself be in this place? You know, like I just so I put myself through the process that I take everybody through. I don't know. I mean, I felt like I was in a rush just to take on these projects and get some work going when I left. So then what I did is I put my business through the process that I take everybody else through, right? And that's first taking a look at 4 dimensions that impact growth and really assessing them for where they are and identifying a unique growth opportunity. So in that way, right, you're looking for who are the people, right? Just like you talk about the people that you're helping, and where is there overlap between what you believe and what those people value, because that's where the magic happens. And so I created a whole positioning and growth plan for myself, and then went through branding, which like the last thing of it is coming up with a name, right? So you work through those marketing personas and brand personality and everything like that. And the last thing I did was come up with the name Urgently Good and make a, productize services and really figure out the organizational strategy before moving into marketing and making stuff like a website. So, so it's not always bad to just pick a name and make a website to get started, but that was not what has helped me be successful in the long term. It ended up being taking myself through that approach, and to try to figure out and learn from what I had done, in the past, which was let anybody order anything, and instead figuring out what did people need and what did people want and why did they want that, and then where did that match up with what I could do and what I could offer and how I could be helpful and how I would enjoy doing that. So I'm not sure if that answered your question, but it took a lot to try to find that place of overlap. But at Urgently Good, we talk about a shared agenda. And so to get started, one of the very first things that we help people do, and that when I went through that process that I helped myself do, is figure out what is the agenda that I share with the people that I'm helping, so that when I say we, it's not just me and the other people that work through Urgently Good, but it's everybody who ends up being involved, so that we have a common aspiration, a mutually beneficial joint commitment to a common aspiration. So nice. Yeah.
That's awesome. So what advice would you have? If there's someone out there watching this, they're in their corporate job thinking of quitting and wanting to build their own business, what advice would you have, when they're to just get started, to kind of get to that point, figure out what's the first step, I guess, in your process that you take people through? Yeah.
So, the very first step that I would suggest someone answer for themselves is this a dream and a fantasy and like something that would be nice? Or is this something that you want to intentionally pursue? Because those are two very different things. I worked with a woman recently who was working on building her business. And as we went through the process, she was starting to question herself. Is this really what she wanted to do? Like, now that she's seeing that you actually have to work on your business, is that what she wanted to do? So I would say to somebody, is it just a fantasy, which really means you need to find a different job? Or is this something that you don't stop thinking about? You've got an idea for a business. This is something that you really want to pursue and be intentional about. If the answer is yes, then I would encourage you to figure out that place of overlap, what that shared agenda is, and find a growth driving value that you can center all of your activity around. So there's a lot of research about, the best way to grow is to center your business around one of 5 fundamental human values. So figuring out which one of those 5 fundamental human values is what your business and what the people care about, where they overlap. because a lot of people who are starting a business, you're just thinking about what you have to sell, and then you're just trying to sell it. And it becomes really one directional. And it's hard to grow a business when you're one directional, right? Because if we had a friend who was always talking about herself, she probably wouldn't be our friend for very long. But we forget that when we build a business, right? And we start talking about ourselves and selling what we've got, and forgetting that, people don't care. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about your business, about what you've got. So it's finding what they care about and where that intersects with what you believe and what you can offer. So I encourage people to think about that. And once you do, figure out what we call it a propeller. So like, what are the 3 to 6 actions that make up your business model that will never change? I highly encourage everybody to think about productized services. But once you do that, and you've got some marketing personas, and you figure out what better version of themselves someone gets to be by engaging with your business, and you do some competitive advantage to make sure that you don't sound like every other business, right? Because a lot of businesses just make a mission statement, and they all basically say the same thing. They're all generic and vague, and they're just like, we want to be the best at selling this thing. So instead, find a way to have personality with the brand and with the business that you're building, and find a way then to express that personality with a unique voice. So that's a few steps to take.
Wow, that's fantastic. I mean, that's outstanding advice. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. Yeah. Okay, so I'm curious, as you've gone through this journey to building Urgently Good and building your business, has there ever been a time where you've just thought, maybe I don't want to do this anymore, or maybe this isn't what I'm supposed to do, I'm just going to go back to a corporate job?
No, I've not.
Nice.
not thought that. I think I've, like I said, I set myself up with the wrong business name and down the wrong path when I initially got started. But I haven't for a second guessed. I just feel I learned so much from the first time that I've done a good job this time of setting up a business that's what I want it to be, and a business that can be successful. So
nice.
So fortunately, I have not been thinking about that.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Although I guess you did kind of have that opportunity already.
I did. I've been there, done that. This is ranching. Been there, done that. Mm-hmm.
Nice. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Well, is there any other advice, before we move into the lightning round of questions, is there any final advice that you would give to anyone if they're sitting at their desk at their 9-to-5 job right now watching this, they're wanting to build their own business? What advice would you give to them?
What advice would I give to them? Don't be afraid of people that don't like what you're doing, because if you're going to do something really meaningful, some people are going to hate it. Because it's not for everyone. Whatever you do can't be for everyone. So find some confidence that what you build is for a certain group of people, and other people, they might hate it. I had a woman who said to me, because we have Brandon Edding is our celebrity spokesbird for Urgently Good. And so people will see this cartoonish bird and some of the graphics that we use on the site and in materials. And a woman was talking to me one day, and she said, I don't like it. I don't know why, why would you do that? And she was saying, I find it really interesting. So many businesses that do branding and marketing either go with hyper-masculized photography or this cartoonish images, and I don't like them. And I said, well, actually it works really well for us. And this is a perfect example, right? Because it's made so that the right people love it. Because it reinforces for them that, yes, this is the place for them, that yes, this is, we take the work that we do really seriously, but not ourselves. So people, kind of find that as they interact with the business and the brand. So it's designed to be loved by some and even despised by others, which is kind of a scary thing because, you can be afraid as you're starting a business. So as you're going out on your own, don't be afraid to be be distinctly you, because
Yeah.
that's what will be really helpful and help your business be successful.
That is phenomenal advice. I mean, I kind of live by that too. So a long time ago, and I don't remember where, Trevor, my husband and I heard this, but we heard someone talk about the rule of thirds. I might have read it in a book or something. And they basically said that a third of the people are going to absolutely love you. They're going to be your raving fans.
Mm-hmm.
A third of the people are going to hate you.
Yes.
And a third of the people won't give a crap either way about you.
Nope. Nope.
And it was so eye-opening to me. And now, like, every time Trevor and I, if either one of us gets a, something that's maybe not so positive, or someone just wants to be a little nasty, we're like, you're just in the third that hates us.
That's fine.
It's all good. We got a whole other third over here that loves us. So
it's like I never watched that show Sex and the City when it was on TV, but years ago I moved to France, and it was the only American, like anything in English that I could find on TV. So I ended up watching Sex and the City while I lived in France. And I needed a little bit of English in my life. But it's like that episode where Miranda hears from somebody, he's just not that into you.
Yeah.
It's like the same thing. It's like, they're just not that into you, and it's okay.
Yep.
That's fine, right? This isn't for them. It's fine.
Yep. Go focus your time and energy on the ones that are into you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Nice. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to move into the lightning round. I'm going to ask you a few just quick questions. So, okay. What is your favorite thing to do on a Saturday morning?
Oh, like you, I like to sit on the back porch of my house in my big comfy chair with a nice cup of coffee, chat it up with my husband, just enjoy life.
Nice. That sounds awesome. Okay, when you just really need to churn out a ton of work, is there something special music that you listen to, or something that you do?
I do. I have a Thievery Corporation station that I turn on, and I in particular love their song Air Batucada. So I have made a station that is based around just that Thievery Corporation song. It just helps me. I don't get lost in a lot of lyrics or things like that. It's just nice, chill music that makes me feel great about life and helps me focus on what I'm doing.
Nice. I'll have to check that out.
Okay,
I
recommend it to a friend.
Nice. Is there a book or podcast that you would recommend to a friend or a fellow entrepreneur?
Yes. Anybody who's looking to build a business, or who's working on building a business, you probably have read this or listened to this, but I love the podcast and on NPR, How I Built This. And they talk to entrepreneurs, and you just get to hear stories about how people have built. They had the people from Method on, but they have all different kinds of people, the people who did like travel guides, and I mean, just all different kinds of businesses and entrepreneurs. And I think for me, I just find it fascinating, but I also think it's really interesting to hear that it's not always just about working really hard, that there are other things that go into being successful. And it's a nice reminder that, yes, you have to work hard, but there are other things to keep in mind. So How I Built This, NPR.
Nice. That sounds fantastic.
Yes.
Okay. We didn't get into this. So I am curious, when you work during your day, do you work from home? Do you have a co-working space? Do you have an office? Where do you go?
So this is where I am at my house. This is an office in my house. My cat, Lewis, I don't know if you can see him, but he's in the background over here in the other room, just completely passed out. I have two cats. So I spend a lot of time working on deadlines at home, but I'm often out, with someone that we're working with. So we often go to their space because we're doing this full assessment. So we have to meet with other people and kind of really take a look at everything that's going on. Every now and then, though, I still like to get out and just go somewhere different. So some days when I'm working on a blog post or something else and just need to change things up, I'll go to a coffee shop, or we're based out of Somerville, and in Somerville, there's a great co-working space. So
nice.
We'll do that too.
Yep. Nice. Okay, awesome. Do you have a really killer productivity tip?
Really killer productivity tip. If it's not on your list, don't worry about it. Because as you go through your list, all of a sudden you can start thinking about, oh, well, if I did this really, really well, I would add 10 more steps to this thing. And how do I do that? And let me go look into that, and let me do some reading on that. And all of a sudden you are down a rabbit hole of time wasted that you have not done the thing that was on your list. So Just go through what's on your list, because just because you've crossed it off now doesn't mean it's final, ultimate, done. It's just, I talk about excellence in learning. You've made something excellent. You've learned from it. Move on, so that you can do something more excellent the next time and then learn from that. Nice.
Okay, and then what app or software program could you not run your business without?
Creative Cloud, Adobe Creative Cloud. We're doing a lot of design and video and photo editing and all kinds of things. I could not do any of that without Creative Cloud.
Creative Cloud is awesome. Okay, and then last one, do you have a favorite quote or mantra that you say every day that kind of keeps you powered, keeps you going?
I will say, I've said it, which is focus on excellence in learning, make progress, not perfection, which sounds really easy, but is something that I have to remind myself of a lot. I will say, though, that when I need to get powered up and feel great, I love that Jason Derulo song, Riding Solo, but I like to think about it not like it's about a romantic breakup, but I like to think about it like it's the story of me leaving my job, right? And I'm out on my own and life's great and I'm feeling amazing. And I'm not shy to admit that I might have a dance, an impromptu dance party or two, sometimes even by myself.
Nice.
Get myself powered up, but that song plays heavily in getting me amped up. Yeah.
I'm gonna hear that song in a whole new light from now on.
It really fits. It works for a romantic breakup, but I'll tell you, you're gonna love it.
Nice, awesome. Well, Laura, thank you so much. I feel like you've shared such amazing advice and tips and insight with us today. I really appreciate it. Can you share with everyone watching today how they can connect with you, learn more about your business, and then I believe you also have a free gift for everyone as well.
I do. Yeah. Thank you so much. And thank you for all of the work that you do and helping people find a way to reach people that they're looking for and to grow their businesses and be entrepreneurs, because a lot of people couldn't do it without you. So thank you very much, truly. And it was great to be here with everyone. If you're interested in learning more about Urgently Good, you can go to urgentlygood.com/Freedom Friday. And there you'll find, I spoke really briefly about how we talk about a shared agenda and finding that growth driving value at the heart of your business. So if you're thinking about growing a business or you've got a business that you're working on, I've got a free video. You will find it. You will find that growth driving value in less than 23 minutes. There's a worksheet to keep you on task. And so I'm not going to just tell you what you should do or why you should do it. It's not one of those, like I'm going to actually help you do it. So check that out. And you can find us on social with the handle @UrgentlyGood, except our celebrity spokesbird, Brandon. He's on Instagram. He's just that kind of bird. So you can find him at Brandon Edding on Instagram. But thank you so much again.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that. And I'll put a link in the comments. And I will also have a link to that Urgently Good /Freedom Friday on the show notes page. So everyone can access that and get access to that video. So make sure, again, guys, you head over to angiegensler.com. You can access the show notes, get all the information, everything that Laura mentioned today. I mean, she gave us so many great tips and resources. I will link out to everything, and I'll have a replay to this video there. And then while you're there, make sure that you also check out the 2019 social media content calendar. It is now live. I just finished it, released it last week. It's getting some great reviews already. So if you need help managing your social media content, getting it planned out, and having a consistent, streamlined process so that you can grow your social media channels and grow your following, get more engagement, be sure to check out that calendar. And then if you liked this interview with Laura and you want to hear more from other entrepreneurs, make sure that you follow my Facebook page so that you get notified every time I go live to interview another successful entrepreneur. And remember, excellence in learning and perseverance, not perfection, is the key to creating a business and life you love. I'll see you guys next week.